Welcome to Xhibition, an Xbox podcast, episode number 5. My name is Samuel Adams, and can you smell that in the air? It smells like E3, and that's because E3 2021 officially begins today, Saturday, June the 12th, and it continues all the way through next Tuesday, with plenty of other big game announcements to come throughout the summer with the Summer Game Fest. Everything is kicking off, and it feels like E3. Last year's event was canceled, obviously, and proper. There was no E3, but Summer Game Fest came in, filled the void, but there was never really a big pinnacle. There was never really a world summit of gaming, and that's what I feel this year's E3 is able to deliver, because you have some of the biggest names in gaming showing off what's coming. Today we have Ubisoft and Gearbox, tomorrow we have Xbox and Bethesda, then we have the PC Gaming Show, which is one that normally has some pretty big little announcements for the PC space. On Monday we have Intellivision coming out of left field. I think they're working on a little console. On top of that, Capcom and Razer are doing some showcases, and then on Tuesday we have Nintendo, with plenty of other shows in between. Gaming is back, and gaming is back in a very big way, and I'm excited to dive into these shows deeper next week with Game Explain's Joey Ferris. He's going to be joining me on the show to discuss everything from E3. He's a fantastic guy. We go way back, and I'm looking forward to catching up with him over some big gaming announcements. Now, before we dive into the bigger news, I do want to hit a couple of highlights here and do some housekeeping, because there were a few smaller announcements this week. Nothing to really, freak out about or anything. Elden Ring is officially coming out next January. I didn't expect to see any kind of actual release date, let alone gameplay for the thing. But Elden Ring is real, it is happening, and it's coming out way sooner than I think any of us thought that it would. Now, Jason Schreier has been tweeting on a regular basis talking about how this hard date was probably a bad choice, so I don't know if he has insider information. Elden Ring very well could get delayed beyond its January 21st, 2022 release date, but we do know it's coming, and if it does get delayed, well, we see how those things go. That's perfectly fine. If a game needs more time, go ahead and give it more time. But Elden Ring officially made its full debut. You can check out the entire trailer now up on YouTube, but very exciting stuff. If you are a fan of From Software and those Souls-like games, it looks like it's definitely going to be scratching the itch of a lot of people, and on top of that, 4-player online co-op is going to be a part of the action. Then you had an announcement that was more catered to somebody like me. Battlefield 2042, that was officially announced, and it is coming on October 22nd, 2021. One interesting tidbit is that this game will not feature a campaign. This is a multiplayer-only $70 next-generation title, which has definitely generated a lot of controversy within the community, a lot of disagreements. Some people don't mind, some people wish there was a campaign. Ultimately, I am still totally on board, and there are plenty of discussions around this game coming to Game Pass in full. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, I made an entire YouTube video kind of digging into the trailer and talking more about my thoughts on the game, but you are going to be seeing more gameplay during the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase tomorrow, Sunday, June the 13th, so stay tuned for that. I'm looking forward to the gameplay world reveal, but this is going to be a slightly futuristic take on Battlefield, getting away from the World War Is, the World War IIs, and we are actually going modern. This is what I've been waiting on, because you don't get any better than Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 when it comes to Battlefield. It is going to be a fantastic time. Looking forward to learning more. We also saw some information around Call of Duty Vanguard, not released directly from Activision or Sledgehammer Games, who are developing this year's Call of Duty, but instead from Video Games Chronicles' Andy Robinson, who says Call of Duty Vanguard is skipping E3 2021 as Warzone prepares for World War II. It seems that Activision is going to be going the route that they went with Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War and reveal the game within a Warzone event later on in the summer, so stay tuned for that. But this year's Call of Duty is returning to World War II. That, I think, is a good move, because with Battlefield you have modern combat, with Call of Duty you'll have World War II, and then with Halo you'll have sci-fi. It is the ultimate trifecta of first-person shooters. And then on top of that, could we get a Wolfenstein from Bethesda? I guess we'll find out at tomorrow's Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase. But ultimately, Call of Duty is on the way. Just don't expect anything from this year's E3 in proper. And finally, a bit of a smaller announcement. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order has gotten its PS5 and Xbox Series X and S upgrade revealed and released. It includes higher resolution textures and assets, 4K HDR, improved 60 FPS performance, and significantly faster loading times. This is significant because we saw an update a few months ago that added an additional tier of performance for those that are playing on next generation consoles, but this is the full Xbox Series X and S and PS5 upgrade. So if you haven't played the Respawn Entertainment Star Wars Adventure, highly recommend you dive in and give it a shot. I believe it is included with EA Play, so if you have Game Pass Ultimate, you already have access to that game. Go ahead, dive in and give it a shot. Now let's go ahead and dive into the meat of today's show. Bringing the joy and community of gaming to everyone is the title of the post on the Xbox Wire, which kind of hits the highlights of a conversation between head of Xbox Phil Spencer and Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella. They both sat down to discuss how big Xbox is for the Microsoft ecosystem and for the company's future, and it turns out it's a pretty big part of it. Quote, "Gaming is fundamentally aligned with our mission as a company," said Nadella. "When you talk about Xbox's mission to bring the joy and community of gaming to everyone on the planet, which I absolutely love, that is precisely aligned with Microsoft's mission, which is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. As a company, Microsoft is all in on gaming. Gaming is the most dynamic category in the entertainment industry. 3 billion consumers look to gaming for entertainment, community, creation, as well as a real sense of achievement, and our ambition is to empower each of them wherever they play. We believe that Microsoft can play a leading role in democratizing gaming and defining the future of interactive entertainment. There are really 3 key areas where we believe we have an incredible competitive advantage. First, our leadership in cloud computing. Second, the resources we have to build our subscription service, Xbox Game Pass. And third, our overall focus on empowering creators," end quote. That's a very big statement coming from the Microsoft CEO, which to say that Microsoft is all in on gaming is certainly very committed. That is something that shows your dedication to the craft and that shows just how many resources you are going to be pouring in to gaming in the years ahead. And of course, whenever you acquire a company like Bethesda, that certainly shows how dedicated you are as a company, because that was a very big purchase for them, and it really does kind of set you up to continue game development for many, many years ahead. But on top of that, I like their 3 key areas. Leadership in cloud computing. That shows a focus on the Xbox cloud gaming service and how it integrates into the Xbox ecosystem as a whole. Then you have Game Pass. Those 2 go hand in hand, and then empowering creators is also a very important one for Microsoft because effectively that is your most powerful marketing tool. Podcasts like this, streams that showcase games, analytical YouTube videos, whatever you might have. Those are your marketing tools. That is how you get people on board. You build a community with creators that are showcasing what your brand is doing and what your company is creating. And so I think they have a really good focus on the future. I love the direction that Satya Nadella is taking Xbox and Microsoft. I'm a huge fan of the company either way, but it certainly does seem like a very bright future. Now, this is where things get a bit more significant because you see a lot of statistics shared here about Game Pass and about the Xbox platform that are essentially defenses to the Xbox approach, in my opinion. They are in defense of the Xbox Game Pass ecosystem because a lot of critics have said this is not sustainable long term, and I think that a lot of big companies aren't willing to become invested in the Xbox ecosystem because there is an inherent risk of giving your game away for effectively free or including it with a subscription, because let's say that your game does not perform as well on Game Pass as it could have with that traditional model. For companies to put a game on Game Pass is a big leap. There have to be case studies to show that that is going to be a good move because they have the data that shows how well their game will perform at $60 or $70 a piece on a digital or physical marketplace, but they don't have any kind of data to showcase how a big game is going to perform on Game Pass. And so with games like Outriders and MLB The Show 21, those are ultimate case studies, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. But I want to focus on EA Play in Game Pass Ultimate because that is very significant. They write, quote, "Since we started our partnership with EA Play and Game Pass Ultimate, our players have been engaging with EA's subscription service in a significant way. Compared to before the integration, EA Play has seen record usage on Microsoft platforms, driving hours played on these platforms up by more than 200%. As a result, EA's incredible portfolio of games has reached and gained millions of new fans on the Xbox platform." That is some very significant growth, over 200% increase for EA Play, and that is exactly what a big company would want to see. That's exactly what Electronic Arts had in mind for this partnership with Microsoft. Now, I don't know what their actual goals were, if it was beyond 200%, but in the corporate world, 200% growth is pretty dang good. Now, on top of that, Outriders in Game Pass was also the #1 selling digital game on Xbox during its launch week and a top 10 selling digital game on Xbox in the month of April. Game Pass helped introduce millions of players to that game. Very important to note that Outriders was also the #1 selling digital game on Xbox during its launch week, in addition to its inclusion in Game Pass. And you see that same sentiment shared with MLB The Show 21, which was the biggest sports game of the past year on Xbox and the second biggest sports game of all time on Xbox. Game Pass added millions of new fans and grew MLB's player base significantly. MLB The Show 21 was also the #1 selling paid game on Xbox for the month of April. Between Outriders being the #1 selling game during its launch week and in the top 10 for the month of April, and MLB The Show 21 being the #1 selling paid game on Xbox for the month of April, that shows the Game Pass doesn't take away from sales. It doesn't hurt the sales of a game. It just adds more players that then generate excitement. It gives content creators free access if they have an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate membership to experience these games, then to talk about them, spread the word about them, and then generate more engagement around the games. That proves a lot of value for Game Pass Ultimate and for developers and publishers to consider that as a route for the future. Now, on top of that, we have some statistics we have seen before. Xbox Game Pass members play 30% more genres and 40% more games, and 90% say they tried a game they would not have tried without Xbox Game Pass. And on average, across the entire Game Pass library, partners see engagement go up by more than 8 times when they enter Game Pass. That is going to be a massive win for publishers, for developers, and for players in general. It's a great match across the board. Whether it's purchasing games inside or outside of what's available in the library, or purchasing additional content for the games they like, members spend 50% more than non-members, another big statistic for the corporate people out there that are looking to drive return on their investment, because there is, again, an inherent risk in including a game with Game Pass, so all of these points collectively really sell them on the idea. Now here's where the players are impacted. Xbox and Game Pass are coming to more screens. Xbox is working with global TV manufacturers to embed the Xbox experience directly into internet-connected televisions with no extra hardware required except a controller. There's your Xbox game streaming app directly on your Samsung TV or your LG TV or your TCL TV, whatever it might be. You'll probably have an Xbox app on there by the end of the year, or at least in the years ahead. Xbox is exploring new subscription offerings for Game Pass so more players around the world can experience the most immersive and fun games across devices, geographies, and, here's the important one, financial realities. It sounds like not only are they expanding where Game Pass is offered, but on top of that, there could be a cheaper tier, because it seems that $10 might be out of the reach of some people. Maybe a $5 just game streaming offering could be coming, and I think that's a fantastic move that we've seen Netflix also offer in other locales around the world. But to be able to offer just game streaming on a mobile device is much more enticing, because then you're competing with something like the Apple Arcade offering that you have on iOS. Because instead of playing games like Grindstone on Apple Arcade or any of the other games they have offered there for $5 a month, hypothetically, with Xbox Game Pass game streaming tier, you could just download the game streaming app on your Android device or add it to your iOS bookmarks in your browser and play games like Minecraft Dungeons or a Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Whatever you might want to play, you've got very big AAA games right there at your disposal, all through the cloud. Xbox is also working with telecommunications providers on new purchasing models like Xbox All Access to expand the potential for somebody to pay over time rather than having to pay $500 or $300 up front for an Xbox console. Then, Xbox is building its own streaming devices for cloud gaming to reach gamers on any TV or monitor without the need for a console at all. There's your streaming stick, akin to something like a Fire TV that you see the Xhibition logo on behind me. That is something that is going to change the game as well, because then you take an even deeper dive into how people are experiencing games, and this adds an entirely new level of accessibility for potentially between $20 and $50. You're right there in the Xbox ecosystem through the cloud. So how is all of this going to be bolstered? I think that's the big question that a lot of people have. They're in the final stages of updating our Microsoft data centers around the world with the latest generation of hardware, the Xbox Series X. This means gamers will see faster load times, improved frame rates, and experience Xbox Series X and S optimized games in the cloud. Right now, if you are playing a game on cloud streaming, you are playing it on an Xbox One, effectively. That's kind of how that works. You are playing Xbox One games in the cloud. Then, once they update to the Xbox Series X infrastructure, you are going to be getting those next generation experiences, because effectively, you are just remote playing through an Xbox Series X, for lack of a better description. Very cool stuff there. And as somebody who plays a lot of games on their cloud device, I'm playing a ton on my iPhone right now, I'm very excited to see those next generation experiences come in and replace the Xbox One experience that I'm having right now, which is great, don't get me wrong, but to be able to experience those next gen games, that's something that I absolutely want in my life. Now, on top of that, cloud gaming through Game Pass Ultimate will launch in Australia, Brazil, Mexico, and Japan later this year. And in the next few weeks, cloud gaming on the browser at xbox.com/play will open to all Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members. You've got Edge, Chrome, and Safari support, with players able to click away from gaming on almost any device. That opens you up to an entirely new realm of accessibility for your gameplay experience. Super cool stuff right there, and I'm excited to learn more about how people receive that in the weeks ahead. But they're not stopping there. Later this year, we'll add cloud gaming directly into the Xbox app on PC and integrate it into our console experience to light up scenarios like try before you download. That is wonderful news, because of people that have data caps that might not want to download a 60 gigabyte game onto their system without knowing they'll enjoy it. And then on top of that, if I don't want to invest the time to download that and waste time downloading a game I might not be on board with, this totally forgoes that process, and it gives you direct access to a stream of a game to see if it's something you might be interested in. Perfect scenario for me right now, Scarlet Nexus. I don't know if I'm going to like that game, and it's not on Game Pass right now. But if I did want to download a quick demo of it, I'd totally be down for that, and I think there is a demo out right now. But to not even have to download that, to be able to go in and just stream it for a couple of minutes and see if it's something I would enjoy, perfect opportunity before I go into that download experience. And of course, on top of that, they have a discussion about the games. With more than 23 studios worldwide creating games for Xbox, our goal is to release at least one new first-party game into Game Pass every quarter. That's a big goal, and that's one that certainly keeps players engaged. I like that cadence of one new first-party game. Role-playing games, shooters, strategy titles, adventure games, and more are all being built by our first-party teams to ensure there is a steady stream of compelling exclusive content to explore And our independent developer program, ID at Xbox, has earned developers over $2 billion since the program's inception, with over 2,000 titles launched and many more on the way. So not only do they have the big first-party games coming, and at a regular cadence at that, you also have these smaller indies that are being developed and nurtured in the Xbox ecosystem. What I'm getting from this blog post is that at its core, Xbox is talking about creating great experiences for players across any device, no matter where they are in the world, for a very affordable price. Those are the elements of success. I'm loving where Xbox is heading, and I'm excited to learn more during the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase. It's a very exciting time to be a fan of Xbox. And again, I've said this before on the podcast, and I'll say it again today. I used to be a big PlayStation guy. Growing up, straight PlayStation all the time, no Xbox. Got a 360 in high school, I started appreciating the Xbox ecosystem, and I became invested in it. Then the PlayStation 4, Xbox One generation, played the majority of it on PS4, but the One X got me back. And then Game Pass got me more invested. And then I started playing more games than ever before, and now I'm totally in. I'm all in on Xbox. I don't feel like I really need a PlayStation right now. Between my PC and my phone and my Xbox, I'm covered on all fronts. I've got everything that I need to enjoy myself and have a fantastic time. And that's saying a lot. I love what they've done, and I think that Phil Spencer is driving this company a fantastic direction, and to see more is going to be very exciting. Of course, we have Halo Infinite, which is going to be shown off, and we have plenty of big news from the Xbox first-party studios, including Bethesda during tomorrow's show, so tune in. I hope you enjoy it. Again, you can find it on all of the feeds, but tomorrow, 10 a.m., looking forward to seeing what they have in store. Now, speaking of what they have planned, experience.xbox.com is officially live, and it says you're early. Come back after the broadcast at 11 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time on June the 13th. I think this is going to be a game streaming powered demo kiosk. That's what you're going to be getting from this. I could be wrong, but considering the focus on streaming and the capabilities they have, it seems like it would be a major win to say, if you at home want to experience all of the games we just discussed, head over to experience.xbox.com, dive in, and you can play 10-minute demos of everything we discussed on today's show. That seems like a pretty good fit, but let me know what you think this is in the comment section down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. And on top of that, more and more demos are on the way, not with E3, but with the Summer Game Fest. They write on the Xbox Wire, our second Summer Game Fest demo event is coming June 15th to an Xbox near you. That's just a couple of days away. This all started last summer, but starting this summer, June 15th, and running through June 21st, you'll be able to try out over 40 demos of upcoming unreleased games for Xbox Series X, S, and Xbox One. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind. These are not normal game demos. Typically, the demos you see in the demo channel are created after the game is completed or is nearly completed and represent the final version. Many of these demos are early, and some are for games that won't be out for quite some time. You can think of these as akin to show floor demos, and I love that. I love the fact that they actually call them show floor demos, because then it feels like an E3, it feels like Summer Game Fest, and that's the kind of stuff that I love. These demos are only on the Xbox dashboard for 1 week, and the devs would love to hear what you think. The full list is coming in just a couple of days, but some highlights are Sable, Lake, The Rift Breaker, Echo Generation, and Tunic. That's the big one that really caught my eye. This is a very stylish little isometric action-adventure game that I have been looking forward to in a very big way. But a lot of exciting times right now, a lot of exciting experiences to have. The Rift Breaker looks very, very cool with some hack-and-slash base-building survival game action to enjoy. Lots of enjoyable experiences that you can dive into for free June 15th through June 21st. Again, it's the Summer Game Fest. It's E3. Dive in, experience some new games, and find your next favorite that's coming later this year or potentially even in the years to come. But that rounds out this week's episode of Xhibition, an Xbox podcast. Again, tomorrow, Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase. 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time if you want to dive in and experience what Microsoft is bringing to the table. Very exciting time to be a player, and on top of that, it has never been a better time to be invested in the Xbox ecosystem. So enjoy E3 2021. Again, we'll be back next weekend to discuss everything with Game Explain's Joey Ferris. Excited to give a post-show breakdown with you all and discuss some of the biggest announcements that are had. In the meantime, I'll be counting down to Halo Infinite, so you can find me over there doing that in the corner, you know, like an insane individual. But again, you have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll see you on the next one. Keep on playing.